Hi guys, welcome to Diva Gals Daily today. Today we're welcoming a woman to Diva Gals Daily who has not only brought her own chair to the table, she's brought a whole tent. And Ashley Adams, she is CEO of Yoga Blue and founder, editor-in-chief of Black Prana magazine, which is the first and only wellness and yoga-focused publication geared towards yogis of color. Welcome, Ashley. How are you?
Hey, thank you. I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate you reaching out to me for this opportunity, and always love to get a chance to share what I'm doing. So thank you.
Yes, great. And I mean, this is Women's History Month, and you are certainly making history. Like I said, you have brought a tent to the tape to the cookout. So what prompted? I'll jump right in. You are editor in chief of Black Prana magazine. So tell me a little bit about that, and how did it come to be, and how did this happen?
So basically, it was a few things that were kind of like the catalyst to getting me here and starting this project. I am a yoga teacher by trade, and yoga studio owner is the thing that I do for a living, if you will.
Okay, tell us the name of your yoga studio.
Yoga Blue Fitness is the name of the studio,
And you're located in Florida, right?
yeah, we're located in Tarpon Springs, Florida, and I have been teaching since about 2015, and I've been a studio owner since 2017. So along that journey, a few things have taken place. One was I had someone come in the studio and say, "Hey, I want to talk to the manager," and I'm like, "That's me," and they're like, "No, no, no, I want to talk to like the owner, the person in charge," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's me too," and they were very surprised to see that that was me. Then I had
The
another.
person of color were the owner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because there's
yeah.
not that, you don't see it often.
No, you don't. And then the other instance was I had somebody come in and say, like, in all like honesty, trueness for them, they're like, I didn't know Black people did yoga, and they're like, they were really
Wow.
serious, super surprised. So those were like one of the two things, and then the third one was I was working on a project for the studio, and I wanted to do like some business development, connect with other businesses and talk about their products and services that they offer, so on and so forth. And I wanted to have a mix of businesses and representation, and I went to my local like bookstore here to just try and find other publications, magazines, or whatever that had something to do with yoga and were yoga adjacent, like in that same vein. And I went through about 10 to 15 publications and couldn't find anyone brown, not even brown adjacent. There's
No
just like
representation.
no representation at all. So
Wow.
after those like three happening, I was just really, really irritated. It just really made me mad. So it's like, you know what? If this isn't a thing out there, then clearly like this needs to be a thing because representation does matter. And then
It does.
because that was lacking when I went to look for it, it also was like this light bulb moment to this is why people are so surprised to see that I'm the teacher and the studio owner and the person in charge, because I'm just not what's marketed to them as the normal yoga practitioner, right? And how can I then expect people to know that this is available to them if it's not being shown and not being put out there that, hey, this is a thing too. So in my
aha moment, that was your aha moment. It's like, oh, okay.
like there's a problem here, and I can be the solution, right?
Okay. And had you at that point had any publishing experience?
No. So I've had no publishing background, no like wellness creation background, none of that stuff. I just knew that this was the thing that needed to be made. So my first inclination was like, okay, where do I start to put this thing together? And then let me bring people along the way that have done this thing before, so we can breathe life into this project. And that's pretty much what has essentially happened to get us to where we are right now.
And so how long has it been? When did you start Black Prana Yoga? When did it launch officially?
So we officially launched as Black Yoga Magazine June 7th of 2019. And we had existed as Black Yoga Magazine all the way through until a few months ago, where we bumped into trademark frenzy, and we transitioned to Black Prana Magazine, so that way we can keep the vision alive and keep creating space for us too in this wellness experience.
Got it. Okay. And so now you're officially Black Prana Magazine, and I see you have over 30,000 followers now on Instagram, which is, and that's in a year, less than a year and a half.
Yeah, basically like a year and a half. We started from zero, and the way that our Instagram got started was me getting up every morning at about 6 a.m. and just consistently posting about the thing that we were building, or that I was on a mission to build and bring to fruition. And I just consistently did that thing, and it got traction, it got legs, and it's just grown exponentially from there. It's been a really cool thing to watch happen.
That's amazing. And what I like about what you're doing, and I'd love for you to talk more about this, you are bringing so many people with you into this business of yoga. You have created a teaching program, and tell us about that, because I know it's a short program and it's affordable, because there are a lot of people that want to be, want to get into this business and be certified, but it's a cost factor. And so tell us how you change that, because you've
So
opened for a lot of people to have access.
yeah, so for me, access was a big deal. For me as a studio owner and as a teacher, I got to a place where I was just like, I really like to see other folks that look like me teaching and being a part of this space. And what is it that's keeping people out, basically?
Right.
So there are two things that I found that were really keeping people from like going on the yoga teacher training journey, if you will, or even just the journey to self, if in this particular space, to learn more about you as you go through teacher training, whatever your reason is for doing it. There were two things. One was cost, and the other one was just accessibility to actually carve out the hours to do the training.
Right.
So
because cost factor wise, it could be upwards of $2,000-$3,000 in some programs.
And sometimes more. So what I decided, looking at the price point, so on average, if you go out there and look for teacher training, it's anywhere from $2,000 to $4,500 to go through a training series, right? And there's no guarantee that you're going to get a teaching job, that you'll make your money back. There's no guarantee of any of that. It's just more so that, hey, this is what it costs to do this thing. So that in itself was keeping folks that make less than $72,000 a year out of this world, right? It was just automatically putting up a door saying barrier, right? Saying this is not for you. Because you kind of got to have, or not kind of, you do have to have what you feel like is disposable income to invest in something like this, because you don't know if you're going to get any return on your investment. So to convince people to like, oh, don't pay your mortgage payment or save a few months worth of car payments and then go do this thing, it made for a hard stop for a lot of folks. So what I decided to do was to lower the price to $250, because I really do feel like price should not be a barrier of entry for someone who wants to go on the yoga journey, to connect back to self, to work through these tools that I had acquired along the way in my own personal experience. I feel like price shouldn't like keep people out, because there are valuable lessons to be learned here in the yoga space, right? So I brought the price down to $250, and I basically wanted people to feel like we were willing to bet on them, that take a chance on them, that they would really still put in the necessary amount of energy and effort and commitment to get what they needed out of this teaching experience, even though it was just $250. And the other thing that I wanted to bet on was the fact that we could take on more students from a cost perspective, and knowing that we will still be able to function as a business with having teacher training being as inexpensive as it is.
Your program was it always virtual, or did it become virtual during the pandemic?
So what I was crafting pre-pandemic was like this virtual hybrid where a portion of the teaching would be online and then the other part of it would be me flying across the country to go to these different hubs and kind of teach the in-person parts of the training. That was the original plan. Well, then the Rona came.
Plans have changed. Yeah.
So all of that went out the window. So what I
Right.
ended up doing was we already have a set of pre-recorded videos that were made to accompany our original training. So we took those pre-recorded videos that already exist in the portal. We uploaded those for everyone that was going to sign up for teacher training. And then what I do now is I still come on to teach via Zoom the live portion that I would have flown around the world to teach for people. So that's how we made it work. And we've also added a really great piece to this, which kind of helps the continuing ed, is our private Facebook group that we continually update and bring content in.
Mhm.
So if for some reason you miss something in class, I go back and continue to teach within the group to make sure everyone gets the full experience of their 200 hours so they're
Mhm.
not missing any of the content. So
That
it's been a cool way to operate because the other thing with it only being in person and it being really expensive is if you don't have the time to take off work, you can't commit to this experience. So
exactly
whereas if it's in the virtual space and we're recording everything, now you can go back and do that when you have time to do it.
true. And so, how many people have you certified since you started?
Since we started, we're up to about 3,000 teachers that have joined the group in some
That
capacity.
is
Yeah.
amazing. So, 3,000 new teachers
Mhm.
are now certified and out there teaching through your certificate. That's incredible. So, that's a really good feeling to know that you've ushered in 3,000 other new yoga teachers. And you have teachers from all different backgrounds, all different, I'm sure you're getting different states, different countries even.
Yeah, so we have from Australia all the way to the U.S., Canada, England, Jamaica, Barbados. Um,
Wow.
a little bit of everywhere is mixed into the group, and it's been a really neat experience um, for everybody that's come along. It's been neat for me to experience the growth that everyone has and that the group has had along the way.
I'm sure. Yeah, because that sounds incredible. It sounds like there's going to be quite a few yoga retreats in the near future to some exciting places, hopefully.
Yeah, that's my hope that we'll be able to get on the road again and see folks in person and run retreats and do all these really like cool things as the world begins to open back up, right?
Yeah.
It's my hope that we'll be able to do that just because we've made these worldwide connections, and I would love nothing more than for us to be able to like be face to face with one another. I think we're all kind of starved for
Yeah.
that in
Well,
person
you know,
interaction.
cabin fever, we just want to get out and be in
Yeah.
the world again. Definitely. I know I'm due for a trip myself, but so
Right.
tell me about what are some of the biggest, myths about, when it comes to practicing yoga that you've kind of broken down and found that, hey, that's not really true because we see so many different ideas of what yoga should be, what it is. What have you found to be true?
So the biggest one that I hear more often than anything else is the I'm not flexible.
Mhm.
You don't have to be flexible to come to class. Like you come to the yoga class to find whatever your flexibility looks like, right? And that's both mental and in the physical body, right? Those are things that are learned as you're on the mat. It's not something that you come into the practice necessarily with, right?
Nobody
Um,
comes in able to, flip their legs over their head. That's an accumulation of time. It's a little sad.
exactly. You don't show up, just with on average, right? We're not showing up to class there already. A lot of times, what is portrayed to you online is the end result of years of practice.
Right.
It's not it's not where they started. It's not where they started because what I think a lot of us have, what we seem to forget in this very hyper like social media like over the top space is people usually aren't sharing with you how they started. They're usually sharing like the highlight reel of the best of
Your journey. Yes.
the trips and the fun and the this and the that. And what you're not seeing is like the how many times they fell trying to do
Right.
pose and or Dupakasana, or how many times like just the middle splits weren't a thing for them. You know,
Right.
that's not what you're seeing. So
Yeah.
the long and short of it is
You see the work that goes into it. There's a lot of
yeah,
work that
right.
gets into getting that split.
Yeah, there's practice to be done. It's called a yoga practice for a reason. So you don't have to come to any class like knowing all the things. The onus is on the instructor or the teacher, whomever is in front of you, to help guide you through whatever your personal practice
Right.
needs to look like. And that's different for everybody.
Exactly. And so what would you say to someone who is, they've never tried yoga, they've thought about it, they might have done some dance when they were a kid, and they think, like you said, they're flexible, but they've been doing other things. So what would you say to someone who's considering taking yoga?
Just go to class. I mean, that's really
Get on the
like
mat, right?
just get on the mat, because there's no there's no like magical words of wisdom that I can necessarily give you that will take the place of you getting on the mat and experiencing that thing that you need for you to um, make this class or this modality meaningful, right? There's no words that I can give, because all I can share with you is my lived experience of the practice. Until you get a chance to live that same experience, all you can do at that point is just listen to the things that I'm saying, right? So
Exactly.
the biggest thing I can say is, if you've always thought about taking it, it's always been on your mind, you wonder what it would be like, the only way to like scratch that itch to answer that question is for you to go do it.
Get on the mat and try it. Even, it's easy now with all the videos, and just, you don't even have to leave your house most of the time.
Yep.
So, question for you about the business though. As a businesswoman because you're, before you got into that, you were a businesswoman. And so, how has it been? Are you able to network with other yogis, and as well as yoga owners of color? Are you seeing more yoga practitioners that are owning their own studios of color?
I think it's still like quite the mixed bag. The thing that I'm noticing now, I guess the new gap, if you will, that I'm working to mind is, how do we get from just being the teacher to making the transition to being the business owner, like helping people make that transition. I'm seeing more teachers come into the space than I am people who want to pick up and do the studio owner piece, because everybody's journey is a little bit different, right?
Right.
So I have seen like an upswing in more just teachers like trying to get into this particular experience.
Well, what goes into that? I mean, there's a lot of work into owning a studio, I'm sure, that people don't know about. So maybe share some of that. Like, how did you do it?
Say from the business parts of it is, know that you have to make a few decisions in the beginning, right?
Mhm.
One of them, the biggest one, is, do you want a really expensive hobby, or are you actually trying to run a business and turn a profit?
Right.
Those are two very different things.
Yeah, because
So,
right now ownership is, where it's at right now. And
right. So
that's where we need to be.
yeah, so knowing from the beginning, like, what you're in this for, what is your why, what is your purpose, what do you want this to look like, 365 days from now.
Mhm.
And if you're choosing the business side of the house, you have to make direct decisions that affect the business's well-being and affect its growth, so you can be here 2 years from now, right? But if this for you is a really expensive hobby, then pay for all the yoga trainings, do all the yoga things, buy all the yoga stuff, and use it as a means to hang out with friends, and that's fine too, right? But if you're in the space of I want this to be a business, there's business things that you have to figure out. What does your profit and loss look like? What is it like to hire employees? What is it like to have hard times with employees? What is it like to have financial ups and downs? Like, these are things that you have to kind of cognitively work through before you jump into the deep end of the pool.
Are there permits that you need to secure
right.
as well?
Because what are the rules for your area? Figuring out what those things are. The biggest piece that I see that is missing in most, like, we're going to start a yoga business is not having a solid marketing plan and not having a solid customer acquisition plan.
Okay.
That's the biggest,
and that's something people don't talk about. Thank you, Ashley. We need to hear more of that, from the business side, because not everybody that becomes certified wants to teach.
Right.
People want to go into, a program or, start something.
Right. But you have to have a sound way of how, or a relatively sound plan, if you will, of how you're going to acquire new customers. What does that look like? What does it look like in practice? What does it look like in theory? And have a step-by-step way that you're going to execute that customer acquisition. Because without a clear plan, you're just posting on Facebook and hoping people show up to your yoga class. That's not it. That's not going to work long term. If you're looking at it as a business building, like, this is going to pay my rent and pay my lights and take care of my kids, right? So those are kind of like some of the decisions that have to be made in the beginning in order to determine the trajectory of what this will look like for you, as I said, like, 2, 3, and 4
years from now.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for that. That's, incredible, because a lot of people are, birthing new businesses in this era, and the wellness industry does seem to be exploding, and more people are jumping in, getting certified. Like you said, you've brought in 3,000 more teachers. That could potentially be, 3,000 more studio owners as well in the future. So that is wonderful. And we're so glad that you came on with us today to talk about your business, and you're making all this history here in the wellness industry. Thank you so much for being here. And tell us again, where can we find you? Where can we find the latest issue of the magazine? We really didn't even get into that, but the magazine is, available online as well. There's a website.
You can find blackpranamagazine.com is where you can find our previous issues, and where you can also connect with us for teacher training through that we're partnered with through Yoga Blue Fitness. All things that we have going on are found at blackpranamagazine.com. If you want to find us on IG, with Black Prana Magazine there as well. Twitter, Pinterest, all of those places, Black Prana Magazine. You can find out more about what we're doing, how we're doing, and one of my biggest missions is to tell your wellness and your yoga stories. So we're here to hear those as well. Connect with us online, and we're always looking for stories to share. So I would love to see you in class, love to see you on the mat. So definitely make sure that you connect with us so we can continue to serve you in the future.
All right. And you heard it right there from Ashley Adams. And if you're looking to try yoga, sign on to your website, and you have classes there that people can try. So that is great. And we'll look out for that. Thank you so much for being here, Ashley, and namaste. Have a wonderful day. All right. Bye-bye.